Jack Benson pulled his worn truck into the gravel driveway and turned off the engine. Rain drummed on the roof as he sat there, staring at the darkened farmhouse. Another day done at the lumber mill. Another night alone. 3 years had passed since his wife Elaine died. 3 years of quiet meals and empty rooms. The house, once filled with laughter and plans for children they never had, now felt too big and too small at the same time. Jack grabbed his lunchbox and jacket, then made a dash through the rain to the covered porch. Water dripped from his baseball cap as he fumbled for his keys. The old lock stuck, as it always did in damp weather. He pushed the door open with his shoulder and stepped into the silent house. He didn't bother turning on many lights. What was the point? He hung his wet jacket on the hook by the door, kicked off his muddy boots, and headed to the kitchen. The refrigerator held leftover meatloaf from 2 nights ago, and some milk that was probably going bad. Jack sighed and took out the meatloaf. After heating his dinner in the microwave, Jack sat at the kitchen table alone. The clock on the wall ticked loudly. Outside, the storm grew stronger. Wind howled around the corners of the house and tree. Branches scratched against the windows like bony fingers. Jack was washing his plate when he thought he heard something. He turned off the water and listened. There it was again. A knocking at the front door, so faint he almost missed it beneath the storm's noise. No one ever came to visit, especially not this late, and especially not in weather like this. For a moment, Jack considered ignoring it, but the knocking came again, more urgent this time. Jack dried his hands and walked to the door. When he opened it, he found himself staring at a woman who looked about 30. She was soaked from the rain, her dark hair plastered to her pale face. But it was her eyes that caught Jack's attention, wide with worry and exhaustion. "I'm so sorry to bother you," she said, her voice nearly lost in a gust of wind. "Our car broke down about a mile back. We saw your lights. Is there any chance we could use your phone?" Only then did Jack notice the 3 small children huddled against her. They all looked exactly alike. Triplets, with the same round faces, and dark eyes as their mother. 2 boys and a girl, he guessed, none older than 6 or 7. They shivered in their wet clothes, looking up at him with expressions that made his chest tighten. "There's no cell service out here in storms," Jack said gruffly. "Landline's down too, probably." The woman's shoulders slumped. "I understand. We'll try the next house." A crack of thunder made the children jump. The smallest one began to cry. "How far to the next house?" Jack asked, already knowing the answer. I don't know." Jack sighed and stepped back from the door. "You better. Come in. Just until the storm passes." Relief washed over the woman's face. Thank you so much. I'm Marie Collins, and these are my children, Sam, Lily, and Noah." The triplets looked up at Jack with identical wary expressions as they stepped inside. "Jack Benson," he replied, suddenly aware of how messy the house was, how long it had been since he'd had visitors. "Let me get some towels." He found clean towels in the hallway closet, ones that hadn't been used since Elaine was alive. When he returned, Marie was whispering softly to her children, trying to calm them. "Here." Jack handed her the towels. "Bathroom's down the hall if you want to dry off." While Marie took the children to the bathroom, Jack stood awkwardly in his living room. What was he supposed to do now? He glanced around, seeing his home through strangers' eyes. The layer of dust on the shelves, the empty walls where Elaine's photos used to hang, the worn furniture. Marie returned with the children, looking slightly less drenched. "I can't thank you enough, Mr. Benson." "Jack," he corrected. "Just Jack is fine." A loud rumble came from one of the children's stomachs. The little boy, Sam or Noah, Jack wasn't sure, looked embarrassed. "When's the last time you all ate?" Jack asked. Marie hesitated. "We had some crackers this morning." Jack frowned. "This morning? It's almost 8 now." "We were trying to make it to my sister's house," Marie explained. "I thought we had enough gas to get there, but then the storm slowed us down and the car—" She trailed off, clearly not wanting to say more in front of the children. Jack nodded toward the kitchen. "I've got some leftover stew I can heat up." Children's eyes widened at the mention of food. Jack led them to the kitchen and pulled the container of beef stew from the refrigerator. He'd made a big batch on Sunday, planning to eat it all week. There was plenty. As Jack heated the stew, he watched Marie with her children. She helped them climb onto the chairs at his table, whispering encouragements and smoothing their damp hair. Despite their obvious hunger, the triplets sat with their hands in their laps, waiting patiently. When Jack placed bowls of steaming stew in front of them, they looked to their mother first. Only after she nodded did they pick up their spoons. They ate slowly, carefully, as if afraid the food might disappear. "Aren't you having any?" Jack asked Marie, noticing she was just watching her children eat. "Oh, I'm fine," she said quickly. Jack filled another bowl and set it in front of her. "Eat," he said. It wasn't a request. Marie's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you," she whispered, picking up the spoon with a slightly trembling hand. As they ate, the storm raged outside. Jack learned that Marie and the triplets had been driving for 2 days from a town several states away. She was vague about why they left, only saying they needed a fresh start. Her sister had offered them a place to stay until Marie could find work. "I can call Frank at the garage in the morning," Jack offered. "He can tow your car in, take a look at it." "We don't want to be any trouble," Marie said. Jack shrugged. "It's no trouble to make a phone call." After dinner, Jack showed them to the guest room, the room that had once been meant for a child. It had a queen-sized bed that would be tight for 4 people, but better than their car in the storm. "The sheets are clean," he said, turning on the lamp beside the bed. "Bathrooms across the hall if you need it." "This is very kind of you," Marie said quietly as the triplets explored the room with curious eyes. Jack nodded and turned to leave. At the door, he paused. "If you need anything, I'm just down the hall." Back in his own room, Jack sat on the edge of his bed listening to the muffled sounds of Marie getting the children settled. He heard her gentle voice singing a lullaby, one he didn't recognize. The sound stirred something in him, a feeling he thought had died with Elaine. As Jack lay down to sleep, the storm still beating against his windows, he wondered what tomorrow would bring. For the first time in 3 years, he didn't know what his day would look like. For the first time in 3 years, he wasn't alone in the house. Jack closed his eyes, the sound of the rain mixing with the memory of children's voices in his kitchen. He didn't know then how much his life was about to change. Jack woke to the unfamiliar sound of children's voices. For a moment he lay in bed confused, wondering if he was dreaming. Then he remembered his visitors from the night before, Marie Collins and her triplets. He dressed quickly and made his way to the kitchen. There he found Marie at the stove, cooking eggs in his old cast-iron pan. The triplets sat at the table, their legs swinging above the floor. "I hope you don't mind," Marie said when she saw him. "I found some eggs in the fridge. I wanted to make breakfast to thank you." "It's fine," Jack said, pouring himself coffee from the pot Marie had already made. It smelled better than the coffee he usually made. "The storm stopped," one of the boys said. "Sam," Jack thought. "Can we go outside and see?" "After breakfast," Marie told him, "and only if Mr. Benson says it's okay." "Jack," he corrected again, "and it's fine, just stay in the yard." As they ate breakfast, Jack watched the family. The children were better behaved than any kids he had ever seen. They said please and thank you. They didn't spill their milk, and they ate everything on their plates without complaint. "I need to call Frank about your car," Jack said when they finished eating. He dialed the garage and explained the situation to his old friend. "I'll send Bill out with the tow truck," Frank said. "Where exactly did they break down?" Jack asked Marie for directions, then relayed them to Frank. "I'll go take a look at it today," Frank promised. "But I'll tell you now, Jack, we're backed up, and if it needs special parts, those take time." After hanging up, Jack turned to Marie. "Frank will check out your car, but it might be a few days before it's fixed." Marie's face fell. "I see. Is there a motel nearby where we could stay?" Jack thought about the nearest motel, 30 miles away in the next town. It wasn't a nice place, and it would cost money that Marie clearly didn't have. "You can stay here until the car's fixed," he heard himself say. The words surprised him as much as they seemed to surprise Marie. "We couldn't impose," she started. "It's not an imposition," Jack said. even though part of him wondered what he was doing. The house is big enough. I'm gone most days at work anyway. Relief and gratitude showed on Marie's tired face. Just until the car is fixed, we'll try not to be in your way. Later that morning, Frank called back with news about the car. Jack listened, then hung up with a frown. What is it? Marie asked, looking worried. The engine needs a part that Frank has to order. Could be 2 weeks before it arrives. Marie sat down heavily at the kitchen table. 2 weeks, she repeated softly. The offer still stands, Jack said. You can stay here. Marie looked up at him, studying his face as if trying to understand his motives. Jack wasn't sure he understood them himself. I can help around the house, she offered. Cook, clean. I'm good with my hands. I can fix things. Jack nodded. That's fine, but you don't have to earn your keep. It's just a place to stay until you can move on. That afternoon, Jack cleared out his home office to make a bedroom for Marie. It wasn't much, just a small room with a desk and a futon, but it would give her some privacy. For the children, he remembered the old daybed stored in the attic. It was dusty, but still in good shape. He brought it down and set it up in the corner of the living room. It's not ideal, he told Marie, but it's better than all of you cramming into the guest room. It's more than ideal, Marie said quietly. It's very kind. The next day was Monday, and Jack had to go to work. He felt strange leaving the family alone in his house, but what choice did he have? He showed Marie where everything was and gave her his work number in case of emergency. I'll be back around 5, he said, heading for the door. We'll be fine, Marie assured him. And Jack? Thank you again. At work, Jack found it hard to focus. His mind kept drifting to the family in his house. At lunch, his co-worker Pete noticed his distraction. You okay, Jack? You seem off today. Jack hesitated, then told Pete about his house guests. Pete whistled low. That's not like you, taking in strangers. It's just until their car is fixed, Jack said defensively. Still, Pete said, be careful. You don't know these people. Jack thought about Pete's warning on the drive home. It was true. He didn't know Marie or her children, but something about them felt trustworthy. And if he was honest with himself, it had been nice not to come home to an empty house last night. When Jack pulled into his driveway that evening, he smelled something cooking. Inside, he found the house cleaner than it had been in years. The floors were swept, the windows shined, and the furniture dusted. From the kitchen came the smell of baking bread. Marie was at the stove, stirring something in a pot. The Triplets sat at the kitchen table drawing on paper with some old colored pencils Jack had forgotten he owned. Jack! Lily, the girl, called when she saw him. Look what I drew. She held up a picture of what looked like Jack's house, with stick figures, standing in front. It had been a long time since anyone had been excited to see him come home. Nice, he said, feeling awkward but pleased. I hope you don't mind, Marie said. I found an old recipe book in the cupboard, your wife's, I think. There was a chicken and dumpling recipe that looked good. Jack recognized the book she mentioned. It had been Elaine's favorite. He hadn't been able to open it since she died. I made bread too, Marie continued, misinterpreting his silence. But if you'd rather I didn't use the book, no, Jack said quickly. It's fine. Elaine would have liked knowing her recipes were being used. Dinner that night was the best meal Jack had eaten in years. The Triplets told him about their day exploring the yard, finding a family of rabbits under the shed, and discovering Elaine's old garden now overgrown. Mom says we can help clean it up. Noah, the quietest Triplet, said, if that's okay. Sure, Jack said, surprised to find he meant it. Elaine would have liked that too. After dinner, Jack helped clean up, while Marie got the children ready for bed. As he dried the last dish, he heard Marie's soft voice singing the same lullaby from the night before. Jack found himself standing in the doorway of the living room, watching as Marie tucked the Triplets into the daybed. They looked cleaner and happier than they had when they arrived, less scared. Good night, Jack, Sam called, noticing him in the doorway. Night, Jack replied, feeling strangely moved by the domestic scene before him. Later, when the house was quiet, Jack sat on his back porch with a cup of coffee. The night was clear after the storm, stars bright overhead. For 3 years he had lived in a fog of grief, going through the motions of living without really being alive. Now, suddenly, his house was full of noise and life again. It was temporary, he reminded himself. In 2 weeks, maybe less, they would be gone and his quiet life would return. But as he sipped his coffee under the stars, Jack wondered if that was what he really wanted anymore. A week passed and Jack found himself falling into a new routine. He woke each morning to the sounds of Marie and the children getting ready for the day. They ate breakfast together before Jack went to work. In the evenings, he came home to a clean house and a hot meal. Frank called with news about the car. Parts are delayed, he told Jack. Could be another week, maybe 2. Jack found he wasn't bothered by this news. He was getting used to having the family around. The triplets had started school in town, riding the bus from the end of Jack's long driveway. Marie had found a part-time job doing data entry work online, which she could do from Jack's house while the children were at school. On Saturday morning, Jack woke early as usual. He planned to fix the leaky roof on the old barn behind the house. When he came downstairs, he found Marie already in the kitchen making pancakes. "The kids still asleep?" he asked, pouring himself coffee. "No, they're outside." Sam found an old tire in the barn and wanted to make a swing. Jack looked out the kitchen window. Sure enough, all 3 triplets were by the big oak tree, Sam trying to throw a rope over a high branch while his siblings watched. "I should help them with that," Jack said, "before they hurt themselves." Out by the oak tree, the children greeted Jack with excited smiles. He showed them how to tie the right knot for a tire swing and helped them hang it securely from the strongest branch. "Can you push us, Jack?" Lily asked when the swing was ready. Jack spent the next hour pushing the triplets on the swing, their laughter filling the morning air. It had been a long time since there had been laughter at his farm. He was surprised by how good it felt. After lunch, Jack started work on the barn roof. He was up on the ladder when he heard Marie call out to him. "Need any help?" she asked, shading her eyes from the sun as she looked up at him. Jack was about to say no when he stopped himself. "Actually, if you could hand me those shingles, that would help." Marie climbed partway up the ladder, passing him the materials as he worked. They fell into an easy rhythm, not talking much, but working well together. "You're good at this," Jack said after a while. "Fixing things." Marie smiled. "My dad was a handyman. He taught me a lot before he passed away." "What about your husband?" Jack asked, immediately regretting the question when he saw Marie's face change. "He wasn't very practical," she said after a moment. "He was a scientist, an astrobiologist. He studied the possibility of life on other planets." "Sounds interesting," Jack said, surprised. It was. He was brilliant, but Marie trailed off, her eyes distant. "He died a year ago, left us with nothing but his research journals and a lot of debt." Jack nodded, understanding loss all too well. "I'm sorry." They worked in silence for a while. Then Marie spoke again. "What about your wife? Elaine, right? What was she like?" Jack hammered a nail with more force than necessary. He rarely talked about Elaine, even with people who had known her. But somehow, here on the roof with Marie, it felt okay. "She was a teacher," he said. "3rd grade. Kids loved her. She loved this old house, always had plans for it. The garden was her pride and joy." "I can tell," Marie said softly. "The bones of it are still beautiful." That evening, after the triplets were in bed, Jack found Marie sitting on the back porch, looking up at the stars. He hesitated, then joined, her bringing 2 cups of tea. "Thank you," she said, accepting the cup. "It's a beautiful night." Jack looked up at the clear, star-filled sky. "Elaine used to know all the constellations. She tried to teach me, but I was never good at finding them." "My husband was the same way," Marie said with a small smile. "He could name stars in distant galaxies but couldn't find his keys in our apartment." Jack chuckled. It felt good to laugh about Elaine, to remember the happy times instead of just the pain of losing her. "The triplets' father," Jack began carefully. You said he was a scientist? Marie nodded, her eyes still on the stars. Peter was different, special. He saw the world in ways most people don't. The children are like him in that way. They're good kids, Jack said. Smart. Too smart sometimes, Marie agreed. It makes them stand out. That's been difficult. People can be cruel to those who are different. Jack thought about how quiet and well-behaved the triplets were, how they sometimes spoke in ways that seemed beyond their years. He had noticed how careful they were around strangers, as if expecting rejection. Is that why you left your home? He asked. Because people were cruel? Marie was quiet for so long that Jack thought she wasn't going to answer. When she did, her voice was barely above a whisper. We left because we were in danger. Peter's brother. He wanted the children after Peter died, said they needed special education, but what he really wanted was to control them, to use them somehow. When I refused, things got ugly. We had to run. Jack felt a surge of protectiveness. You're safe here, he said firmly, for as long as you need to be. The next day, Jack found himself in the local hardware store, buying supplies to fix up the old garden. He hadn't planned it, but seeing Marie's interest in Elaine's garden had sparked something in him. It was time to bring it back to life. When he got home, the triplets were playing in the yard. They ran to greet him, excited to see what he had brought. Are we going to plant flowers? Lily asked, peering into the bags. If you want to, Jack said. Your mom said you might like to help with the garden. The children's faces lit up. Together, they spent the afternoon clearing weeds and turning soil. Jack was amazed at how hard the children worked, never complaining even when their small hands blistered. Lily seemed to have a special touch with the plants. Under her care, even the most wilted seedlings perked up. Jack watched as she whispered to a dying rosebush, her tiny fingers gently touching its leaves. To his amazement, the bush seemed to respond, its leaves becoming greener before his eyes. How did you do that? He asked her. Lily just smiled. Plants like to be talked to. Mom says all living things need love to grow. That night at dinner, Noah, the quietest triplet, pushed a folded paper across the table to Jack. I made this for you, he said shyly. Jack opened it to find a drawing of 5 people standing in front of his house, a tall man, a woman, and 3 small children. Above them, the sky was filled with stars that seemed to form patterns. That's us, Noah explained. You, Mom, Sam, Lily, and me. And those are the star people watching over us. Star people? Jack asked, looking at the strange patterns Noah had drawn in the sky. From where Dad came from, Noah said simply. Marie quickly changed the subject, asking Jack about his plans for the garden. But later, when the children were asleep, Jack found himself studying Noah's drawing again. There was something strange about the star patterns, something almost familiar, as if he had seen them before. On Monday, Frank called again about the car. Got some bad news, Jack. That part we ordered. Wrong one came in, got to wait for another shipment. How long? Jack asked, surprised to find himself hoping for a longer delay. Could be another month, Frank said apologetically. Tell Marie, I'm real sorry about this. Jack hung up the phone thinking about what to tell Marie. They had already been with him for nearly 2 weeks. Another month was a long time to impose on someone's hospitality. But as he looked around his house, now clean and filled with signs of life, Jack realized he wasn't ready for them to leave. For the first time since Elaine died, his house felt like a home again. Jack found Marie in the garden, planting the tomato seedlings they had bought at the farmer's market. The spring sun warmed the air, and birds sang in the trees nearby. It was hard to believe that just a month ago, this garden had been nothing but weeds and memories. Frank called about the car, Jack said, kneeling down beside her. Marie looked up, brushing dirt from her hands. Is it fixed? Jack hesitated. Not yet. The part they got was wrong. Could be another month. He expected to see disappointment on her face, maybe worry. Instead, he saw what looked like relief, quickly hidden. I'm sorry to hear that, she said, focusing back on the plants. We've imposed on you for too long already. It's not an imposition, Jack said firmly. Actually, I've been thinking. The kids seem settled at school now. It might be better if they finish out the school year here before you move on. That's another 6 weeks. Marie stared at him, surprise clear in her eyes. Are you sure? Jack nodded. I'm sure. That evening, while Marie helped the triplets with their homework, Jack went up to the attic. He hadn't been up there in years, not since he packed away the last of Elaine's things after she died. But now he had a purpose. Among the dusty boxes, he found what he was looking for: Elaine's old telescope. She had loved watching the stars, teaching neighborhood kids about the planets and constellations. The telescope had been expensive, a gift for their 5th anniversary. Jack carried it downstairs to find Noah sitting alone on the back porch drawing in his notebook. The boy looked up as Jack approached. Is that a telescope? Noah asked, his eyes wide. It was my wife's, Jack said, setting it down carefully. Thought you might like to use it. Your mom says your dad was interested in stars. Noah nodded eagerly. Can we set it up now? Together they assembled the telescope on the porch. Jack was surprised to find he remembered how to do it, guided by muscle memory from the many nights he had watched Elaine set it up. There, he said when they finished. It's not dark enough to see much yet, but later we can look at the stars. Noah ran inside to tell his siblings about the telescope. Jack smiled, feeling good about bringing the telescope down from its dusty exile. Elaine would have wanted it to be used, especially by a child who appreciated it. After dinner, all 5 of them gathered on the porch. The night was clear, perfect for stargazing. Jack showed the triplets how to look through the telescope, how to adjust it to see different parts of the sky. Look for the patterns, Noah whispered to his siblings. Like in my drawings. Jack pretended not to hear, but he watched Noah carefully. The boy seemed to know exactly where to point the telescope, finding stars and planets with surprising ease. That's where Dad is from, Noah said quietly to Lily, pointing at a cluster of stars. Jack frowned, not understanding. Then he remembered what Noah had said about his drawing, the star people from where his dad came from. It was just a child's imagination, Jack told himself. Kids often made up stories to explain the loss of a parent. Later, when the triplets were in bed, Jack found Marie looking through the telescope. Thank you for doing this, she said when she noticed him. The kids have been fascinated by the stars since they were babies, especially Noah. Jack leaned against the porch railing. He said something strange earlier, about his dad being from the stars. Marie's hand stilled on the telescope. Kids say odd things sometimes. That's what I figured, Jack said, but he noticed how tense Marie had become. Noah's drawings are impressive for a kid his age. Those star patterns he draws, they're very specific. Marie straightened up, no longer looking through the telescope. Noah has a good memory. He remembers the constellation charts his father showed him. Jack nodded, deciding not to push further, but later that night he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Noah's drawings, about the strange comments the children sometimes made. There was something Marie wasn't telling him. The next morning was Saturday. Jack had planned to work on fixing the front steps, but when he came downstairs, the house was quiet. Too quiet. He found Marie in the kitchen, her face pale and worried. What's wrong? He asked. The children are gone, she said, her voice shaking. I can't find them anywhere. Jack felt his heart race. When did you last see them? Last night, when I put them to bed. This morning their beds were empty. Together they searched the house, then the yard, calling the children's names. Jack was about to suggest they call the police when he remembered the old barn. The triplets loved exploring it, despite his warnings to be careful of the rotting wood. Let's check the barn, he said. They hurried across the yard to the weathered building. Inside, they heard soft voices from the hayloft. Sam? Lily? Noah? Marie called, relief in her voice. Are you up there? The voices stopped. Then Sam's face appeared at the edge of the loft. Mom, we're up here with the radio. Jack and Marie climbed the ladder to the hayloft. There, the triplets sat in a circle around an old radio, one Jack didn't recognize. It was unlike any radio he had ever seen, with strange dials and what looked like crystals embedded in its surface. "Where did you get that?" Jack asked. "We made it," Sam said proudly, "from stuff we found in the barn and Noah's drawings." Jack looked at the device more closely. It was a complex piece of equipment, far beyond what 3 6-year-olds should be able to create. "What does it do?" Marie asked, her voice strangely calm. "It catches the star voices," Lily explained. "Like Dad's did." Jack looked at Marie, expecting her to dismiss this as more childish imagination. Instead, she knelt beside the radio, examining it with a knowing eye. "You shouldn't have built this without telling me," she said to the children, her voice gentle but firm. "You know it's not safe." "But Mom, they're looking for us," Noah said. "They want to help." "Who's looking for you?" Jack asked, feeling like he was missing something important. Marie stood up, facing Jack. For a long moment, she just looked at him, as if deciding something. Then she sighed. "I haven't been completely honest with you, Jack. About Peter, the triplets' father. About why we're running." "Mom," Sam said urgently, "the signal's getting stronger." The strange radio began to emit a series of tones and clicks, unlike anything Jack had ever heard. The triplets looked excited, but Marie looked worried. "We need to turn it off," she said. "Now." "But Mom," Noah protested. "Now, Noah. We've talked about this." Reluctantly, Noah turned a dial, and the sound stopped. The triplets looked disappointed, but they didn't argue. Jack followed Marie and the children back to the house, his mind racing with questions. Once the triplets were settled in the living room with books, Marie led Jack to the kitchen. "I owe you an explanation," she said quietly. "But I need you to keep an open mind. What I'm about to tell you will sound impossible." Jack thought about the strange radio the children had somehow built, about Noah's drawings and Lily's way with plants, about Sam's ability to solve complex math problems in his head. "Try me," he said. Marie took a deep breath. Peter wasn't just a scientist studying the stars, he was from the stars, and the triplets. They're half human, half whatever Peter was. They have abilities that normal children don't have. Abilities that make them valuable to certain people. Jack stared at her, waiting for her to say she was joking. But Marie's face remained serious. "People like Peter's brother," she continued. "He wants to use the children to study them. That's why we're running." Outside the kitchen window, the spring sun shone on the garden where, just hours ago, life had seemed so normal. Now Jack felt like his world had tilted on its axis. "You don't believe me," Marie said, seeing his expression. "I don't know what to believe," Jack admitted. Jack sat on the porch steps watching the sun set over his fields. 2 days had passed since Marie's strange confession. 2 days of trying to make sense of what she had told him. The triplets played in the yard, looking like normal children as they chased fireflies in the growing darkness. But were they normal? Jack had seen things he couldn't explain. Lily making dead plants grow with a touch, Sam building complex structures that seemed impossible for his age, Noah drawing star maps of places no human telescope had ever seen. Though Mama's screen door creaked as Marie came outside. She sat beside Jack, not speaking at first. The silence between them felt heavy with unspoken words. "The car part came in," Jack finally said. "Frank called, said he can have the car ready by Friday." Marie nodded. "I'll start packing our things." "Where will you go?" Jack asked. The thought of them leaving made his chest tight. "My sister's, I guess. Though I'm not sure we'll be safe there for long." Jack looked at her. In the fading light, Marie's face seemed tired and afraid. "Because of Peter's brother?" "Yes. He has resources, connections. He's found us twice before." Marie watched her children playing. "I just want them to have a normal life, to be safe." Jack thought about how quiet his house would be when they left, how empty. In just 2 months, Marie and the triplets had become part of his life in ways he hadn't expected. "You could stay," he heard himself say. "Here, The farm is isolated. No one would look for you here. Marie turned to him, surprise in her eyes. Jack, you don't have to do that. We're not your responsibility. I know that. But this place is too big for just me, and the kids seem happy here. But what I told you, Marie began, about Peter, about the children. Most people would think I'm crazy. Jack was quiet for a moment. I don't know what to think about all that, but I know those are good kids, and I know that having you all here has made this place feel like a home again. The next morning, Jack called Frank and told him to hold off on fixing the car. Then he went to the barn where the triplets had left their strange radio. He studied it, trying to understand how 3 young children could have built something so complex. It works, you know, a small voice said behind him. Jack turned to find Noah standing in the barn doorway. What does it do exactly? Jack asked. It lets us hear them, Noah said, coming to stand beside Jack. The Star People, Dad's family. Jack knelt down to Noah's level. And what do they say? That they want to help us, that they can protect us from the bad men. The bad men, your uncle? Noah nodded, his young face serious. He wants to cut us open to see how we work. Jack felt cold at the boy's words. Has he tried to take you before? Twice. Mom got us away, but he always finds us. Jack looked at the radio again, thinking. If what Marie had told him was true, if the children really were half alien, then they needed protection. And maybe this farm, isolated and quiet, was the safest place for them right now. Noah, Jack said carefully, would you and your brother and sister like to stay here? Live here, I mean. Not just until the car is fixed, but for good. Noah's face lit up. With you? In this house? Jack nodded. With me. In this house. And Mom too? Yes, and your mom too. If she wants to. Noah threw his arms around Jack's neck, hugging him tight. Yes, we'd like that very much. That evening, Jack and Marie sat at the kitchen table after the children were in bed. Between them lay papers, enrollment forms for the local school, giving Jack permission to act as guardian for the triplets in case of emergency. Are you sure about this? Marie asked. It's a lot to take on. I'm sure, Jack said. This place was meant for a family. It's been empty too long. Marie signed the papers, her hand steady. Thank you, she said simply. But those 2 words held more meaning than 1,000 would have. The following week, Jack began building an addition to the house, 3 small bedrooms for the triplets. They would need their own spaces as they grew. Marie questioned the expense, but Jack waved away her concerns. The farm had been in his family for generations, paid for long ago, and he had savings, money he had put aside for a future that had died with Elaine. Until now. Summer came, bringing warm days and star-filled nights. The garden flourished under Lily's special touch, producing more vegetables than they could eat. Jack taught Sam how to use tools, how to fix things around the farm. Noah continued his drawings, filling notebooks with star maps and strange symbols. Sometimes, late at night, Jack would find Noah in the barn with the radio, listening to sounds that seemed like nothing but static to Jack's ears. But Noah insisted he could understand them, that the Star People were watching over them. Jack wasn't sure what to believe about all that, but he knew one thing for certain. The farm was safer with all of them there together than Marie, and the children would be on their own. One warm evening in July, Jack sat on the porch watching the triplets chase lightning bugs. Marie joined him, a glass of iced tea in her hand. No sign of your brother-in-law, Jack said. It had been 6 months since Marie and the triplets had arrived at his door. 6 peaceful months. Not yet, Marie said. But he'll find us eventually. He always does. Let him try, Jack said firmly. This is our home now. We'll protect it. Together. Marie's hand found his on the porch railing. Yes, she said softly. Together. Later that night, as the house slept, a strange light appeared. In the sky above the farm, it hovered there, pulsing with colors no human-made aircraft could produce. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, it was gone. But something had changed. In the triplets' room, the children sat up in their beds, eyes wide, sharing silent smiles. In her room, Marie woke from a dream of her husband, his voice clear in her mind for the first time since his death. And in his room, Jack slept peacefully, unaware of the light, but aware in his heart that the family under his roof was unlike any other, and that by taking them in, he had set his life on a course he never could have imagined. In the morning, Jack found a strange mark burned into the grass of the back field, a perfect circle with symbols inside it, like those in Noah's drawings. When he asked the boy about it, Noah just smiled. "They know we're safe now," he said. "They know we're home." Jack looked back at the house, at Marie standing in the doorway watching them. Home. Yes, that's what the old farmhouse had become again, a safe harbor for a special family, a place where a lonely man had found new purpose. "Yes," Jack agreed, putting his hand on Noah's shoulder. "We're home." And somewhere far above them, beyond the blue sky and the clouds, beyond the stars that were visible to human eyes, others watched. Others waited. The children's other family, waiting for the right time to reveal themselves fully. But for now, the farm was safe. The family was together. And Jack, the struggling widower who had taken in a starving family on a stormy night, had found a new life he never thought possible, as protector and father to 3 half-human children who would someday change the world.